Hey, what's up, Libra? Welcome to this timeless tarot reading. As I stipulate in all my videos, if you would like to fast forward to the card drop, make sure you check the timestamp for a time. My personal style is not to draw cards off the top. I prefer to shuffle until a card drops or flips, or protrudes rather clearly. Therefore, if you grow tired of my stall talking while I shuffle, please feel free to fast forward to the next drop for you. Alright, so also thank you for putting up with my growing pains of recording these tarot readings. I still have a lot of work to do to kind of embrace my personal style, so I don't always know exactly what to say. I don't always know exactly how to say it, but with your presence and with your help, these readings wind up being interesting enough eventually. So I apologize for the pacing. Alright, so in the last... Okay, as soon as I say that, we have an interesting combination for you. Page of Wands, fire energy, the Emperor, combination of a lot of energy, but represents Aries, which is also a fire energy. Very fiery energy for you. While the Page of Wands can denote some kind of message to take action, or some kind of inspiration to action, to active effect, the problem is that with the Emperor in reverse, there is some instability with taking that action from some kind of leader. The leader, and it's not for good reason either, it's the Emperor in reverse. So there's some kind of toxic reason that good action is not being allowed to come through properly here. And it's not something small and procedural. There's actually a toxic leader who is interfering with the good qualities that should be emerging from whatever action this is supposed to be. So it's unfortunate to see this kind of clarification here. Whoever this Emperor is could be you, could be somebody else. The Page could also be you or somebody else. Although the Page of Wands, while it does often denote another person, there is also an energy to the card. It's not just about another individual. Same thing for the Emperor. It's not necessarily about an individual. It is about the energy embodied in the card, which in this combination, the thing that really comes to mind is there's a toxic leader shutting down a good idea. There's a toxic leader shutting down good momentum that should, in fact, if this Emperor was in the upright and had healthy authority, would be embracing properly and would be accepting and cultivating and nurturing, as opposed to having this toxic effect. So it's a pair of energy that's at odds with each other. Even though the energies are matched in terms of fire, it's the actual... One of these energies is progressive and one of them is stuck in place. So I'm trying to get something else to drop here for you because I would like some more clarity on... Whoops, and I got my shuffle stuck there. I would like some more clarity on just exactly what's going on here. So for the Virgo reading yesterday, I had a ton of cards come out pretty fast, which was not a characteristic. Usually the reads take a bit to get the cards out. They really spin things up. So I apologize that this is happening on this instance. Virgo got lucky yesterday and had cards. The cards are flying out for Virgo. Otherwise, I'm not sure what else to take from these two cards alone. There's just, unfortunately, there's some kind of social dilemma. There's some kind of insecure authority figure is shutting down a good idea. Shutting down an idea that should be quite good. That's the basic idea I'm getting here. And I'm really hoping to get some kind of flip out here, some kind of clear expansion upon this energy, because just these two cards alone doesn't seem like enough here. Whoops! And as soon as I say that, interesting. So we have the Eight of Wands coming, or excuse me, the Eight of Cups coming out, and this card. So there's some interesting depictions about this card. This card has connotations of moving on. When other people think you shouldn't move on, they essentially, they think eight cups is enough. But you have it in your heart that it's not. There's something even better. And oftentimes, in that striving, other people like to see you go. Because you aren't just settling for good enough. You want as good as possible, so to speak. So another interesting depiction of this card is that when this person is walking away, and there's other decks where it shows it from the other perspective, and in the background they're literally celebrating this person on their way. And even the moon in this instance is skeptical. So that's the easier thing. Man, okay, so we have another clarification on moving along here, but then a much tougher clarification on the end of this. So this is interesting because you have 3 fire energies now, and you even have a suit, or not, excuse me, not a suit, you have a court card in reverse now with the Queen of Wands. And she's in the reverse. So this is very weird because, like, these leadership roles like this in the reverse connotate toxic leadership. They are people who are abusing their authority, often because they are quote-unquote bad, not because they're evil, but because they are selfish. And their selfishness does not allow them to expand their subjects properly. But because they are granted the authority of these thrones, these people that they rule over don't have any choice in the matter. So even though these people can get what they want, they often are doing it at other people's expense comfortably, and that's what can lead to disappointment in them when they don't get exactly what they're looking for, which can amplify their toxicity. Which is very interesting because there's this is quite a sign of moving on. Someone is moving on. That's the only thing I mean, that one's pretty clear. Somebody is moving on, but what I'm kind of confused on here is is the Emperor moving on to the Queen of Wands, or is the Page of Wands perhaps moving on from the Emperor and still finding the Queen of Wands eventually? Or maybe the Emperor is actually losing status or something. Like, this is kind of interesting. Is there any, can I get some clarity, please, for what this is trying to suggest here? Sometimes the readings don't come together until all of the cards come out, and this is expanding interestingly because there's definitely a lot of confliction between authority figures, and there's a lot of separation and moving on. So like differences of opinion causing rifts is super strong in this reading. And then it's even going like, it's even like the cycle is coming back to itself. It's not even being dealt with. So, like, maybe this Page of Wands is trying to get the message through that something needs to be moved on from. That this Emperor's complacency is going to lead people looking for other things, even if that is another leader that's unfortunately of the same kind. So it'd also be a sign that you can't find anything else but this. Like, even when you try to separate yourself away from this, you find it again, which is very disappointing. I mean, that's like atypical authority, basically. That it always manages to sink its hooks into our world. And even though people have tried to come up with ways to move beyond these issues, they can't help but come right back to it. So that's kind of interesting, because it's like, you know, law of attraction, oops, and interesting. This is very interesting. So we not only have the Page of Wands, but we have the Page of Swords now as well. And if we take out this World card, we actually have a very interesting balance here. If we just take a look at this for a split second. This is extremely balanced. So we have both masculine pages on the edges, flanking two toxic leaders, both in the upside down, both of which are fire sign representations. And then we have this mirror in the center of moving on even. So this is a very, very interesting balance that you've got going on here. If we bring the World card back into it even, it also represents the completion of a cycle. So, like, whatever the cycle is, I mean, that's kind of interesting for sure. Like, I'm just not sure. I'm not sure what else it wants to clarify using the Page of Swords, though. So, like, the Page of Wands tries to inspire a lord, but that lord, of course, unfortunately, is stuck in shutting down good ideas because they don't like acknowledging the strength in others. Whenever they can't find that strength themselves to solve these issues. So it's like this Emperor is insecure in very lame and very atypical reasons. They are the best does not get to thrive under their rule because their own insecurity denies the best coming out in other people, and they can't bring the best out in other people. So when this Page of Wands shows up to make the difference, to offer a solution, the Emperor is the problem, blocking the true solution, which is the atypical problem of emperors and leaders and lords and rulerships and authority. So that leads to people of this stature striving on to find something better, to find something greater, to not get stuck having to live under this. But despite how often they try to find that difference made, they can't help but keep finding that same problem. Authority almost can't help itself. It doesn't know how to rise above this problem, this interpersonal problem, or whatever causes leaders to act like this. So one other thing is that the Page of Wands is often a card of action. But the Page of Swords is more, it's more a card of not physical action, but spoken word as action. So it's not about the feelings of inspiring action in others. It's about inspiring action through meaning, through the meaning that the Page of Swords can provide with their words. So it's almost like a call to try something different. Which is very weird because it's backwards. Typically it's actions that speak louder than words. But in this instance, apparently there needs to be a different type of word said. Or there needs to be... I'm not exactly sure, to be honest with you, how to sort this out, because whatever cycle this is being claimed to come to an end here. This cycle is coming to a close. And I don't know if that's from both of these pages or if it's from the energy of this page. Really quickly, I am going to double check these two cards. I just looked at the Page of Wands yesterday, and the energy embodied is pretty typical to fire. Like, so yeah, like it's not just about good action, it's about the fact that there's a certain way you have to feel to accomplish the good actions this card is talking about. Feeling like achieving these qualities requires you to feel properly. And unfortunately, this Emperor and this Queen of Wands are mix-matched in that energy. So there's an issue here with this approach because these people aren't ever going to feel like it. And the more emotional quality here isn't what's going to get through to them because they have muddled emotions as it is. Whereas with the Page of Swords, it's... Hold on, give me a second to open this up. It really is a lot more about wielding verbal power. Whereas this is about wielding like active emotional power. This is more about like leveraging the mind. It's about leveraging effect through the mental realm, but like the conceptual realm, as opposed to just trying to feel through it to a certain extent. Or like not necessarily feel through it, but as opposed to just taking action and having it work. This is about making sure that you think it through enough to take the right action. So I'm not sure exactly what it could be talking about specifically for these people, because you have 1, 2, 3, 4 cards that represent individuals. The thing that's very interesting about this read is that it's so balanced. Pages on the edge, lords on the flanks, and 2 cards about moving beyond things in the center. And what keeps coming back to me is that it's not just that you can leave your troubles behind in this instance. You can't just leave your troubles behind when you have to rely on this authority. because the authority is everywhere. And if we want to challenge that authority and complete this cycle and overcome this issue, we can't just rely on the energetic realm. And we can't just rely on playing to how people feel. We can't just rely on the expectation that effort alone makes the difference, or that how people feel alone makes the difference. It's very much about the utter reality of, oops, sorry that I kicked my camera a little bit. It's really about the utter reality of unfortunately, of there being a better way to do things. And in some instances, even a quote-unquote best way. That there is a way that, with proper conscience, you can have an exponential effect on a situation. Whereas if you only apply your action alone to whatever you do, that can only get you so far. And that sometimes there is a way to have a multiplicative effect, but you have to apply a certain ability to heed a higher sense of quality. And that is something of mentalism. So it's actually very interesting. Hasty feelings, even if well-intentioned, and even if that's status quo normalization of how you're supposed to take effect to the world, creates a toxicity in authority. And it's not just that you can walk away from that authority. The authority is everywhere. And even when you strive to be the difference made, you go from this optimistic Page of Wands into this pessimistic Queen of Wands. When you think you can do better like this, you find yourself, even after trying to make the difference, you find yourself in the same place. And you find yourself understanding this Emperor differently. And you understand, it's very interesting how you're understanding that this actually isn't, because the thing that is, if I'm going to kind of make this get halfway political here for Libra. I think Libras are known for that. Scales in the... Oh, and you know what? I just realized it. Off the top of my head. You are Libra the scales. Look at this balance in your reading. That is so cool. I just realized that. That is like the coolest thing I've seen so far in these last 3 days of recording tarot readings. That is so awesome. There is literally balance delivered in your reading like this. You know, the World card throws it off a smidge, but the World card represents completion, which is a form of balance at the same time. So it's like balance within balance. That's actually pretty cool. So I hope somebody actually watches this because that's actually pretty sweet. I just realized that for you. Okay, so the point I was gonna make, and this is where I kind of try to get real here and like really go with what I feel like, but there's a culture in our world that says that working hard no matter what you're doing is the right thing to do. But that culture of working is what empowers these leaders and these authority figures to continue toxifying themselves in ways that do not serve us or really serve themselves. And no matter how many times over history people have striven for new ways of doing things, for some reason at the end of the day they find themselves in the same place. They find themselves in the same positions of authority, dealing with the same issues. So no matter how many times they've tried to move on from this notion, society and humanity always finds itself back in the doldrums. And part of the reason for that is because people are sacrificing their greater power in the name of this work ethic, when in fact there is a stronger way to do things by embracing your own self-empowerment And when you sacrifice yourself to the same dead-end job for 40 years, you don't actually grow. Even though you're working, even though you're taking action in your life, you're not empowering yourself. You might be stabilizing yourself, but there's a certain way where you have to sacrifice yourself to appease these people. You have to sacrifice your greater quality of living. And in the name of being a quote-unquote good person, you give yourself to the work ethic, you give yourself to the work life just to serve this toxicity that doesn't serve anyone else, and they've tried to change, make the difference, and they never can. They always fall back to the same place. It's not going to be done like this. We aren't going to achieve this completion through continuing to deny how it's not about sacrificing yourself to work life. It is about taking up the greater strengths that life has to offer you. And until you do that, like, the whole world's going to be trapped in this cycle. Because these toxic people just keep on taking from us in status quo because we just sacrifice ourselves to the work life. And we can't find, and oftentimes just, and unfortunately, some people are just complacent. And that's not even the good enough word. Some people are, they're just weak. They're too weak to try and like bring forth their greater power. They are stuck in this because they are more afraid of facing what it takes to refine your strength than it does to just keep doing the same things over and over. But if you're going to keep doing the same things over and over, then this is going to keep happening. And unfortunately, some of us want to be over here and over here. We want to be able to embrace our power. We want to be able to do the right thing that is better for everybody, not just keep doing the wrong thing because everyone else does it. And because that's supposed to make us a good person because we are tagging along in group suffering. Some of us want to overcome the suffering, not just integrate it into ourselves. Or, at least that's what I think anyway. So that's what really comes to mind for me here. Like the really awesome Libra balance, which is pretty cute. And then it's sort of my own interpretation on life that this authority cycle is partly due to the fact that people will not refine their actions like this. Instead, they just keep doing the same things because that makes them a good person in culture's eye. And then also the fact that some people are just comfortable being in a shitty situation. They would rather be in a shitty situation than make themselves stronger with these qualities. But I know for me personally, I'm really tired of putting up with these people. If these people keep deterring my quality of living, why do I have to support their systems? They aren't even conscious enough to care about themselves enough. So they're willing participants in this servitude. So that's kind of where I'm at with this. I know for me personally, I want to overcome this problem. And our whole world has been trying to overcome this problem for as far back as human history can actually recount. So I don't know if I'm reading this right. I'm getting really critical about the fact that you can't just work hard. You can't just work hard. Or allow me to rephrase that. You can just work hard, but just working hard isn't always going to provide you with your greatest quality of living. Sometimes what you need to do is take a step back and refine your process. You need to take a step back and come up with a plan. You have to refine where you might be standing on hollow ground and get yourself better footing. It's not just about taking the raw action all the time. So, well, that got a little heavy there, so I hope that wasn't too much of a turn off for you. I hope it wasn't too much of a downer, too much of a put down. I think it's known in Libras that, like, they're kind of about the scales of justice, quote unquote. So, like, the idea that Libra would care about these processes makes some sense to me, but a lot to most of you might be working, okay? Now, I hate to be stepping on everybody, but part of why we're stuck in with part of the reason why authority gets to have its hold over us is because we won't ever do anything different. And we think we're doing the right thing by, like, taking care of ourselves and by working no matter what and all that kind of stuff, but most all of that effort just fills these pockets and keeps creating the same problems. And that's kind of what this is a sign of, is that with how the reading evolved, this is only going to empower and continue this cycle. If we really want to see this cycle change, we've got to try something different. And that's about the best I can come up with this, so I think I'm going to leave it at that. I appreciate you for showing up to this. The balance of this reading is cute for Libras, and it's a topic that I am actually very, very fond of, is dealing with authority figure. Dealing with the way that authority always has this knack of deterring life's quality. So I'm happy to see there's a sign that we can overcome this. And maybe Libras are just the ones to help, who knows? Alright, Libra, well, I'm going to leave the reading at that. So take care, and thanks for watching this. I will see you later.